This was not an easy decision to make. A lot of people were hurt throughout the situation, including myself, and I've spent a lot of time debating whether or not I should make this video. For months, I've gone back and forth on whether speaking publicly was the right thing to do. In the end, I decided that sharing my experience was important, both for my own closure and for other people who may find themselves in similar situations. Before I begin, I want to lay down a few disclaimers. First, do not send hate, harassment, threats, or attacks to anyone mentioned in this video, regardless if their name is censored or not. That is not the purpose of this video, and I do not support that behavior. Second, not every screenshot shown in this video was taken by me. Some were provided by friends or other individuals who were directly involved in the situations being discussed. Third, this video represents my personal experience and perspectives. I'm sharing what happened, how it affected me, and why I ultimately made the decision to end this friendship. Finally, at the time I'm recording this video, the content creator discussed in this video has talked about either rebranding or potentially quitting content creation altogether. I do not know which decision will ultimately be made, but regardless of what happens, I felt it was important to document my experience and why I walked away. So, with that out of the way, let's start at the beginning. Back in August of 2025, I started noticing behaviors that concerned me. One of the earliest incidents involved a conflict between other people where Vivi inserted herself in a situation that didn't directly involve her. I tried approaching the situation calmly and explaining my concerns. At the time, I wasn't looking for an argument, I was trying to communicate and resolve things peacefully. What stood out to me wasn't just the disagreement itself, it was how criticism was handled. Whenever concerns were raised, the conversation often shifted away from the original issue. Instead of focusing on what happened, the discussion would become about unrelated circumstances or personal struggles. At first, I tried to be understanding because everyone goes through difficult times. As the months went on, however, more situations started piling up. One incident that made me uncomfortable involved a personal image being sent to me unexpectedly. At the time, I had just recently turned 15 a few months back, and I had met Vivi just after my 15th birthday. Around 5 months after we met, Vivi had sent me an uncensored image of her bloodied pad. For context, she was either a month away from being 18 or was already 18. Back then, I didn't think much of it because I was young and naive, and we were as close as siblings back then. The situation felt inappropriate to me, especially considering how short a time we had actually known each other. While that incident alone wasn't the reason our friendship ended, it became one of the several moments that left me questioning boundaries. Around September, another issue began developing. Vivi took what was described as a mental health break from managing her community and server. I want to be clear here. There is absolutely nothing wrong with taking breaks for mental health. Sometimes people need time away, and that's okay. My frustration came from what happened afterward. For months, responsibilities were largely left to other people. Friends, including myself, were helping keep things running while communication became increasingly limited. At the same time, I could see activity continuing in other areas, whether that was gaming, spending time with friends, or participating in other hobbies. What hurt wasn't the break itself. What hurt was feeling like the people who were helping were being forgotten. During this period, there were multiple conversations where concerns were raised. In some cases, there were acknowledgments that mistakes had been made or that people have been neglected. Every time those conversations happened, I hoped things would improve. Unfortunately, from my perspective, they did not. By late September and into October, many of the same issues were still happening. Friends were feeling ignored, responsibilities weren't being addressed, conversations about concern often ended without real resolution. I started to feel like I was constantly making excuses for someone who wasn't making changes. I want to emphasize something important here. Mental health struggles are real. Trauma is real. Stress is real. I am not criticizing someone for struggling. My issue was that I felt the impact of those struggles were repeatedly being placed into friends who were trying to help. Over time, that became emotionally exhausting. As we moved into November, new issues started happening. One example involved my Minecraft server. Changes were made that I haven't approved and didn't want. To some people, that might sound small, but for me, it represented a larger pattern. It felt like boundaries weren't being respected. It wasn't just about Minecraft, it was about a repeated feeling that my input wasn't being valued when decisions affected things I owned or managed. Around mid-November, I finally reached a breaking point. I got angry. I said things that I could have handled better. I take responsibility for that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I was perfect throughout this entire situation, because I wasn't. But after months of frustration, I exploded. What made that moment difficult for me was feeling like the original issue disappeared and the conversation immediately shifted elsewhere. Instead of addressing the concerns that had been building for months, I found myself once again trying to comfort someone else while my own frustrations remained unresolved. Despite everything that had happened, I continued trying to help. I continued offering advice, and I continued trying to repair the friendship. I genuinely wanted things to improve. As time went on, however, I started needing space. In December, I began distancing myself. I removed contact for a period of time and tried to step back from the friendship. This wasn't done out of hatred. It wasn't done to punish anyone. I simply needed time to think and recover emotionally from everything that had happened. Unfortunately, even after trying to create distance, I still felt pulled back into the same cycle of conversations and conflicts. By January, things had reached to a point where I no longer believed the friendship could be repaired. There were conversations where I felt my concerns were being minimized or compared to the actions of other people. There were discussions that left me feeling even more frustrated and unheard than before. At the same time, I was realizing just how much energy I had spent trying to maintain a friendship that no longer felt healthy for me. There was also another issue that I want to briefly address involving artwork. In January 2025, Vivi had commissioned me $40 worth of assets, including emotes and a profile picture. As time went on and trust had been built, she started to not pay me and simply ask for free artwork. Looking back, I feel like my skills and work as an artist were taken for granted. While I chose to create that artwork, I eventually realized I had been giving away a significant amount of time and effort without receiving the same level of support in return. That realization added to the growing feeling that the friendship had become one-sided. On January 4th, I had made the decision to walk away. 2 days later, after my birthday, I had posted my own announcement in my Discord server letting everyone know why I cut ties. I had made sure that the name was anonymous so no one would know who it was. I posted the announcement and officially ended the friendship. That decision wasn't made lightly. It wasn't made in anger. It wasn't made overnight. It was the result of months of frustration, disappointment, failed conversations, emotional exhaustion, and so much more. Since then, I have spent a lot of time reflecting on everything that happened. For the first month or so, I spent time crying, regretting my decision of breaking contact. Over time, I realized that was the right decision to make. As more time went on, I started to learn what my own boundaries are and what else Vivi had affected. Not only did she send 2 inappropriate images to a minor, one of her bloodied pad and the other of her breast with a low neck, but she had blackmailed me into staying in the friendship. Blackmail, by definition, isn't just when you make the action. Saying it could still be blackmail. To me and several others, it was because it still put pressure on me to stay. Even 7 months later, Vivi still continues to talk about the situation to her friends, saying that people who left her ruined her life. No one ruined her life but herself. She turns the story to make it look like I'm the villain in the entire situation, and that I was yelling at her for her mental health. Her mental health became an excuse the moment she started using it as the reason to get out of a conversation she didn't want to be in. Vivi today is still hurting people by lying and manipulating, friend hopping, and ignoring the friends she made before her new ones. Everyone who she was friends with before this drama had put so much money into her streams and so much effort into the friendships. As of now, over 30 people have something against Vivian. This video isn't for revenge. It never was. It's about a warning about the kind of person she is. The friend who had helped me leave the toxic friendship was telling me month after month to leave, and I kept refusing because I thought she could change. She in fact did not. I don't expect everyone watching this video to agree with me. I don't expect everyone to see things the same way I do. What I do hope is that people understand why I made the decision I did. This video does not have every single thing that she's done. However, I will put the link to the censored version of the 40-page document I have of her in the description if you want further information. Every name but her own will be censored for both privacy reasons and safety reasons. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for listening to the serious situation. From here, I will not be discussing the situation anymore unless the situation gets worse. See you in the next one.